Snooze, the Lord rearranged her plans. Mam's parents contracted a bad case of the flu and were so weak that the whole family, well, everyone except her, journeyed up to Ohio to spend the holiday at Mommy's and Dottie's house. Then Jennifer and her family decided to travel for the holiday as well. Now, to make matters worse, Grace's only companion had turned out to be an unsocial dachshund who would rather sleep under an old quilt than spend time with her. She was feeling a little blue and restless, too. None of the books she'd brought with her caught her interest. Neither did the puzzle she'd placed on the kitchen table. It seemed she was pouting, too. After staring out the window again, then surveying the sparkling clean and far too quiet room, Grace came to a decision. She needed to stop feeling sorry for herself. It was only day 2 of her 15-day job. Something had to be done. "Snooze, let's go for a little walk." The dog stuck out its tiny brown nose. "I see you thinking about it. Come on, it will be fun." Snooze grumbled when she scooped him up into her arms, but didn't try to wriggle free. Feeling encouraged, Grace clipped a leash to his collar and set him back down. Then she threw a scarf around her neck, stuffed her feet into boots she'd neatly placed by the door, grabbed her black cloak, and led Snooze outside. After closing the shiny black door behind her, she sighed in pleasure. The Lees' front yard was a winter wonderland, rolling hills covered in white, clumps of trees and bushes arranged in artful arrangements, a lovely walkway meandering over to the side of the house, and bright red cardinals perched on a black wrought-iron feeder. A couple of squirrels were chattering in the distance. It all looked and felt like something out of a Christmas card. "You surely have quite a home, Snooze," she murmured. When the little dog squirmed, she smiled. "Yeah, I bet you aren't ready to do your business." Kneeling, she unclipped the leash so he could wander around the yard and sniff. She'd already learned that Snooze's bathroom breaks never took too long. Usually after less than 5 minutes, he would be at her side, ready to get picked up and transported back into the house. Snooze didn't seem to like getting his paws snowy. Just as he'd done every time before, Snooze gingerly walked a few steps, sniffed the ground, circled, sniffed a holly bush, paused. The squirrels in the distance chattered again. He raised his head toward them. Then, in a startling lightning-fast move, he barked shrilly and took off running down a hill. Before she could react, he was out of sight. "Snooze! Snooze!" Feeling an odd combination of both shock and panic, Grace ran after him, the hem of her dark green dress and apron brushing against the snow and soaking her stocking-covered legs. "Snooze, come back!" Down the hill she went, following tiny footprints like a detective, frantically calling out his name, but he didn't come. 20 yards into her run, she stopped gripping her cloak, and because she'd never fastened it, it slid off her shoulders. She left it on the ground, too afraid to look anywhere but at the paw prints in the snow. "Snooze! Snooze, come here, would ya?" But there was no answer. And then, to her dismay, there were no more tracks to be found. She could only surmise that he'd gone after one of those pesky squirrels into the woods, where the ground was covered with more mud and pine needles than snow. Standing there in the cold, her fingertips beginning to feel like ice, her cloak lying on the ground and her head bare except for her white cap, Grace forced herself to face the awful, awful truth. She'd just managed to lose her only companion and her only responsibility for the holiday. "Snooze!" she yelled out again. "Please, please come back!" Tears filled her eyes as she stepped forward. She was going to have to start wandering through the woods, all while praying that some fox or other wild animal hadn't taken hold of the dog. "Snooze!" Her feet crunched on the blanket of frozen mud and pine needles. She reached out and moved a branch out of her path, really wishing she'd put on mittens. Squirrels scampered overhead. A hawk circled in the distance. Just as she pulled another branch out of her way, another scraped her cheek. The snow continued to fall, large flakes sticking to the branches surrounding her, clinging to her wool dress. And still there was no sign of the dog. The tears that she'd tried to quell began trickling down her face. "Snooze! Here, pup!" She stopped again. She was now surrounded by trees and had no idea which way to go. No idea how to tempt one disagreeable dachshund to return to her side. Just as she was